Well, in the recent years, the key achievements of the State Bank are, of course, I think the the first and the foremost, is the establishment of and recognition of the Monetary Policy Committee as an independent body. Previously, we used to have the Federal Finance Secretary also as being a member, and the general perception was that maybe the government was able to somehow sway the decision making. I think the fact that in the last 18 months the Monetary Policy Committee is now without the Finance Secretary as the member really has established its credentials as an independent body. We think that the Monetary Policy Committee now does a professional job, and as you know, there is voting in it. Even I, as the chair of the MPC, and the governor of the State Bank only carry one vote, and the other professionals who are members of the MPC decide according to the macroeconomic environment in which that meeting is being held. So that is, I think, one major step forward that has been undertaken. Apart from that, the bank has been working on the Islamic financing side. It has been working on improving the regulatory framework and environment in which the banking sector works. It has been working for financial inclusion. It has been working to introduce more and more Islamic products in the industry. So I think all of them are very positive steps that the bank have been able to take. And the best part of it is that the bank, even under trying and difficult circumstances, has been able to maintain its reputation as an independent, neutral and professional organization. Well, the twin objectives that we are pursuing in the bank as far as the economy is concerned are stability and growth. And to pursue those, we have to ensure that we keep a very close eye on inflation numbers. Inflation last year was around 4.2%. This year it continues to be low. For the first 5 months that the numbers we have are at slightly less than 4%. The target that we had for this year in the budget was 6%, so well within that target. The recent increase in the petroleum prices and the depreciation of the Pakistani rupee will add a little bit more to the inflation, but we think that we will be within that range of 5.5%. Going forward, and that is going to lead us to stability in India. Going forward, I think we are now working on a policy of inflation targeting, where we would then be taking this stability exercise on a long-term basis. And this is one of the pillars that the bank would want to pursue. We want to ensure stability and growth simultaneously. And for the growth, we have identified 3 key sectors, which are the priority sectors, and which we think can directly and in the shortest possible time contribute to greater growth and more equitable and broad-based growth in the economy. The 3 sectors that have been identified are the low-cost housing, small and medium enterprises, and agriculture. Agriculture, of course, is an obvious sector for the reasons that about 40% of the labor is engaged in it, it contributes 20% to the economy, and then it has the shortest gestation period. If you come up with the right policy mix, a crop cycle at best is only 90 days or 120 days. In most of the cases, except for sugarcane, where it can be for a year also. But in most cases, it is 90 to 120 days. So you have short gestation period, you come up with the right policy mix, and then you are able to achieve the benefits of those policies also. For agriculture, I think very clearly what we have been focusing on is that there is a great dearth of financing for production loans, and that is what we are targeting. Production loans for small farmers, where there is still a gap of 30–35% of availability of financing. So that is what we are trying to plug, and we are trying to give them financing at reasonable rates and directed towards small farmers. The second area that we have been working on, and we recently have launched an SME policy, is on the small and medium enterprises. Though the strong foundation for industrial growth comes from a robust SME sector. In Pakistan, the credit offtake to the private sector has actually gone down over the last 8–9 years. From a high of 17% in 2006-7, we have come down to around 8%. We want to reverse this trend, and we want to focus on SMEs because they are the largest number of people are employed in it. They in future are also going to provide employment to the millions who are entering our labor force every year. So, and they are also going to provide a sound foundation for industrial growth in future. At the moment, we also have a challenge of a premature deindustrialization also, of which we are seeing signs. So, in order to arrest those trends and to further ensure growth in the industrial sector, we need to have a very robust SME sector, and that is what our second policy is. The third is on low cost housing. There is a gap of 8 to 10 million housing units. That gap is continuing to grow every year because our population is growing. And in order to meet that gap, we do not have long term financing instruments. To do so, we have now the third priority area is going to be low cost housing. The housing, apart from the felt need that is always already there, is otherwise also very important for growth in the economy, because it triggers growth in at least 15 other sectors of the economy. So, it has a ripple effect, and if we are able to do that, then we will be soon inshallah be coming up with a policy for those also, and then those are the things that are going to directly contribute to the economy. We also have two cross cutting themes, and the cross cutting themes are Islamic banking and financial inclusion. Islamic banking not only just for our religious belief and motivation, but also as a tool to improve the saving rates in the economy. A survey was undertaken in which it was said that 74% of Pakistan's population believes in Islamic banking. But if you look at the number of depositors, it is by far too low, meaning thereby that the potential is there, that if people think that Islamic banking is something that they would want to pursue, then we have to provide them those instruments, we have to provide them with those opportunities where they then start saving through those Islamic banks and Islamic institutions. And if we are able to do that, I am sure this is also going to add to the saving rates that in the country. The financial inclusion is a tool to empower our citizens. It is not enough to give them equal rights. You have to also create opportunities where those rights can be availed. If you say, all jobs are on merit, but the minimum qualification is metric, and then you do not provide schools in all over the country, then you are really depriving people from those areas where they do not have schools from competing on those jobs. Similarly, financial inclusion is actually empowering people to avail of the opportunities that are there, and this is something that we are working on, and this is something also that is going to add to Pakistan's economy also. If you look at, there are regional disparities. Balochistan is far behind the rest of the country. We have an affirmative action program for Balochistan. We would want them to bring them at par with the rest of the country as far as financial inclusion is concerned. Well, Pakistan's economy has been facing many challenges, and I think if you want me to talk about the key challenges, I would say there are three key challenges that Pakistan's economy faces. One of them is something that I have already alluded to, and that is the persistently chronic low saving rates. We have one of the lowest saving rates not only in the region but probably in the world, and we need to focus on that. We need to generate more savings, because savings are investments, and that is what is going to lead to a sustainable growth in the economy. We cannot continue to depend on foreign savings to augment our investments and to augment the growth in our economy. We have to focus on domestic savings if we want to improve, if we want to have sustainable growth, high sustainable inclusive growth in the economy. The other challenge, of course, is the trade gap. There is a large trade gap that we have been witnessing for the last 8-10 years, and that is growing. That has been met by remittances to date, but over the last year the trade gap has further ballooned, and we need to now have policies where we are able to ensure that we have not only exportable surplus, but exportable surplus at competitive rates, competitive prices, and in full compliance with the global requirements. And we must also have a good marketing strategy for our products. Unless we are able to do that, we would not be able to counter this trade gap that we have. The remittances that historically have met this gap have last year there was a small dip in the remittances. This year there is a marginal growth in it. But considering that the economies in the Gulf are also facing the challenges, we need to now come up with more indigenous policies and have less dependence on remittances of our workers from abroad. So, we need to focus on our export competitiveness, on compliance, on price, and on marketing strategies for Pakistan's products. We also have to look at in areas where there has to be import substitution. We take pride in saying that Pakistan is an agricultural country, and yet we have billions of dollars of imports of agricultural products. It is a huge challenge for us, and this is something that we need to do in the short term. I think with the right mix of policies, we can very easily cut down our import bill by few $billion at least. And the third challenge that we have, Pakistan's economy has, is the tax to GDP ratio. The tax to GDP ratio has improved over the last 4 years, albeit in the last year it was fractionally less than previous years. But if you look at the first 3 years, there has been a significant improvement in those, from 9.8% to 12.5%. But we need to continue to focus in this area. We need to at least generate enough taxes from within Pakistan to at least meet our non-development expenditure. Our current expenditure must be met, must be met from our own resources. And if we have to borrow, it should only and only be for development purposes. Borrowing for development is kosher. It is kosher for an individual, for a firm, for a company, and for a country also, because we expect socio-economic returns on that. So, we need to focus on our tax to GDP ratio. We have to broaden our tax base, which is not only narrow, but is also shallow. So, we have to work on that, and if we are able to do that, we should be able to take the tax to GDP ratio. I think at our level of development, anything about between 15, 16, 17% at that range, we should be in business then, and we should be hoping for a positive economic future for Pakistan.